Next item, Madam Clerk.
Number 3 on the agenda, 2016-075, Ordinance Amending City of Quincy zoning code for affordable housing by removing the provisions of...
Okay, motion to waive the reading. Councilor PALMUCCI.
Yes, thank you. I'd asked this be put on the agenda this evening, although it can't be, I later learned that it can't be acted on because it needs to be re-advertised. And also, I don't believe we've had a public hearing on this. So I'll request that we do both in advance of perhaps the next meeting or wherever it falls in the not too distant future, Madam President. Whether it's the next meeting or perhaps the meeting after that, depending on what the agenda looks like, I'd like it to be on the agenda for a public hearing as well as council action. This is an ordinance proposed by Councilor Finn and I that would amend the zoning code, particularly in the section about affordable housing that exempts the downtown URDP urban development area. And just so by way of a brief background on this particular issue, anyone who's been up here listened to me ad nauseum about the need for workforce housing in the downtown area. If you're going to build it somewhere across the city, it makes the most sense to be in our urban hub with access to public transportation. And again, when we're talking about affordable housing, we're talking about workforce housing as well. This is housing for folks like teachers, firefighters, policemen. This is based on the income levels. This is housing for the middle class. And I think we're at a risk of not having enough of that in the city of Quincy, which to me is a problem. The zoning code, when we recodified the zoning code, which I think was in 2010, it was the first year that Councilor LaForest and I were on the council, and it was a very big undertaking by the Koch administration, which was well overdue, and they stepped up and they did a complete overhaul to update our zoning. One of the things that we debated at that time was whether or not affordable housing, a specific requirement. The requirement's either that you build 10% affordable housing on any project over 10 units, I believe, or you pay into the Affordable Housing Trust Fund so that affordable housing can be replicated elsewhere in the city in a different project. We debated this in the zoning code because in the entire city of Quincy, that rule applies. And we exempted this very small portion of the city downtown. And the reason, my personal recollection, is that the reason we did that is because at the same time we were in the process of negotiating an agreement, the LDA, and a development agreement with Streetworks. And Streetworks didn't want to be bound by a specific number of affordable housing. And in fact, in the negotiation with the Koch administration, they ended up doing, the end result was that they were going to do more affordable housing in terms of payment into the trust fund than I think what was typical at the time. Maybe that's changed since then, but at the time it was going to be more of a payment than what was normally done. So the reason why we didn't include this in the zoning, or the reason why this exemption for the urban, for the downtown or the urban renewal area exists, is because we wanted to give the administration the flexibility to negotiate with the master developer, Streetworks, on an overarching remedy to affordable housing in the downtown. Well, obviously a lot's changed since that time. Now we're in a place where we're the master developer as the city. The city's the master developer. There have been 5 projects presented, 3 approved, 1 seeking approval, and a 5th yet to be approved projects downtown. 5 projects downtown thus far, and not a single unit of affordable housing, and not a single dollar put into the Affordable Housing Trust Fund to replicate that much needed housing anywhere else in the city. To me, that is 1 project, it's 5 projects too many, but the last one, to me, is the last straw, so to speak. We've been told, well, this is, in the first 2 projects, east of Chestnut, west of Chestnut, we were told reasons why it didn't make sense to have affordable housing. We sat, we waited, we noted, this body collectively noted that we still maintain the policy goal that's in the URDP that affordable housing should be made available downtown, and that workforce housing should be created downtown. We waited after Project 1, Project 2, we waited after Project 3, Project 4 went to pass, and now we're presented with Project 5 that's moving forward. Enough is enough in terms of ignoring affordable housing and workforce housing downtown, and that's what this ordinance seeks to change, just to create a level playing field for the downtown area, the same as it is on the streets of South and West Quincy, and Ward 2 and Ward 1. Wherever it is, you have to follow this rule. We shouldn't be exempting the downtown. So I look forward to hearing from members of the public. I especially hope that developers come and speak, maybe folks who either are currently developing downtown or are potentially in the future looking to develop downtown. I would like to hear the reasons, perhaps why we shouldn't do this, just as much as I hold the belief that we should. I think a good public hearing is when both sides weigh in and you get to learn something about perhaps the view that you don't yourself hold, and you're able to understand a little bit some of the other arguments. So I look forward to a public hearing on this, and I look forward to a debate on this. I think it's an important issue. You just look to the newspaper any day of the week and you see something in there that speaks to the loss of the middle class, whether it's affordability of housing, whether it's wages not keeping pace with inflation, whether it's jobs in the economy. There's always something in the newspaper every single day about the, quite frankly, the extinction of the middle class. And I think we as elected officials have to do our part to make sure that our city maintains what we know it to be in terms of its neighborhood character, the character of our city. We've always been a blue-collar city with our strength in our neighborhoods. There is I can think of no argument that makes any sense whatsoever that it makes sense to force affordable housing in our residential neighborhoods, but not in our urban center close to mass transit. So, I've talked way longer than I hoped to or expected to, but I don't know if my co-sponsor, Councilor Finn, would like to speak on this, but if we could, Madam President, as I asked, schedule a public hearing on this when the agenda makes sense.
Yes, thank you, Councilor PALMUCCI. Councilor Finn.
Thank you, Madam President, and I think it was Churchill who had that comment of saying how he was picking up the flag that had fallen upon the field of battle, and I commend my colleague for picking this up once again, because we actually tried in another session to convince our colleagues the critical importance of this. And I think a point that really needs to be stressed is, this is not so much as an amendment as it is a restoration. It's a restoration to going back to the way it was. And I agree with my colleague's characterization of what happened and why it happened, because we did have a master developer, and that master developer entered into a contract that guaranteed a certain amount of resources that would be dedicated to affordable housing. The only thing where I would disagree slightly, and I know he's used this characterization in the past, and I just want to make a little distinction. The city is not a master developer. Being a master developer assumes that you actually have control or interest in those properties and that you are developing those together in some way. A better characterization for the city could be master planner in relation to this. But what makes the restoration of this so critical and so important is it excludes any affordable housing within a given development area. That would even include those parcels who decide to do something with their properties completely and totally separate from anything around a certificate of consistency or choose to do it outside the development. They're just as free as the person who's cooperating with the city in some way to not contribute whatsoever to the whole affordable housing issue. I think the basic fundamental fairness point that Councilor PALMUCCI makes about, some neighborhoods having it and others isn't is a serious one. But I think another thing that we cannot forget is that the state's affordable housing statute, 40B, is a very delicate balance. And if we're talking about significant numbers of new residential rentals or properties that exist within the city of Quincy, that balance is affected in such a way that frees up developers to come in and do 40B projects, which gives them incredible control, that has incredible impact on our neighborhoods and our communities. So that balance with 40B is absolutely critical and important. I would really look forward to finally having a kind of a public hearing related to this as well. And, you know, to just, again, convey the sense that, again, that Councilor PALMUCCI, we are not talking about housing projects. We're not talking about the disabled poor. It's important. I dedicate my life to that housing. We're talking about workforce housing. We're talking about school teachers. We're talking about starting out police officers. We're talking about anyone who could potentially qualify for this level of housing. So I really look forward, and I'm hoping you will all remain open to that discussion and hear about the need to return. It's an interesting thing, as I see Mr. Fatsy's, is the Affordable Housing Trust under Planning and Community Development now has really added a level of objectivity in terms of deciding what's required to meet the provisions of our local ordinance. And yet there's always been a level of flexibility that understands that some of these things need to be negotiated and worked through the Affordable Housing Trust. We have no reason to fear restoring that, and again, I look forward to the discussion. And I thank Councilor PALMUCCI again for bringing it back up again.
Thank you, Councilor Friend. So we will, at the end of this meeting this evening, when we schedule our committee hearings, we'll schedule a public hearing at the next meeting.
Thank you.